Hey, good morning. Chillie Falls here with Chillie's Cruises. Looks like we are live. And of course, as you know, I'm not entirely sure that that's the case. Yes, it does say that I'm live. Cool. And that's still having to check on my little device over here. Yes, we are live. What do you know? Okay. I got a couple little quick business things to get out of the way before we get to the news this morning, which of course I want to do as quickly as possible. Number one, as of this morning, we're at 1,472 subscribers. Thank you all for that. It's nice to just have this nice steady growth that we're having. While I'd like to see it a lot quicker, it's great that we're getting the growth that we're getting. And I certainly appreciate each and every one of you. Now, I had a couple of you out there actually suggest that I use OBS Studio for my live broadcast, and I wanted to report back that looks like an excellent suggestion. I am not using OBS this morning, and the reason that it was suggested, folks, is before I go spend a whole big bunch of money for a big professional studio setup, that maybe this would work. Work as well without spending the money. And of course, you guys know I'm a tightwad, and I like to spend money if possible. But I'm not using it yet simply because I need to do a live broadcast quickie to make sure everything goes right, to feel comfortable doing my longer broadcast, which is our travel and cruise industry news show, which is on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning. So with the situation we're in, which is going to lead us right into the main story for today with the tropical storm / possible hurricane Dorian down in the Caribbean, there's probably going to be some updates, which will give me an ideal situation to do an update that I normally would do as a video, but do it as a live broadcast. Which I will use the OBS Studio and get a little more comfortable before we try that for one of these broadcasts. And then we'll have to check out the things like chatting and that sort of thing to see if it works, but that's on down the road. So anyway, we got that business out of the way. A little sip of coffee here. Cheers to all of you that are up this early this morning. By the way, Brat the Cat got me up at 1:45 a.m. today. Brat the Cat is on my not very good cat list this morning. Just thought I'd report that in. He's liable to wake up and decide, oh, it's time to get fed again, and come in here yowling. Okay, our top story today, of course, is the situation with Dorian. There's been plenty of reporting on this leading up to the days of action, which are upon us now. The National Hurricane Center has issued a hurricane watch and tropical storm warning now for Puerto Rico, as Tropical Storm Dorian is moving through the Windward Islands. Now, where we are, folks, it has passed by Barbados. The initial reports from Barbados is that did not sustain a whole lot of damage from this. And there were some slight signs of weakening as it passed over Barbados. The next island probably to be affected will be St. Lucia, unless there's some kind of turn. And that is probably going on right now. It could have gotten to St. Lucia somewhere around 2:30, 3 o'clock a.m. There have not been any reports as of the last check. Also, early today, the Dominican Republic issued a hurricane watch for some parts of the island and a tropical storm watch for portions of the north and south coast. The Hurricane Center in Miami also had tropical storm warnings in effect for Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent's, Grenadine, all the islands down there. This could affect everybody to some degree. Now, the center, as of 5 a.m., which was an hour ago, The centers said that the storm had maximum sustained winds currently of 50 miles per hour and was forecast to strengthen over the next 48 hours as it moves toward Puerto Rico. It probably is going to get to Puerto Rico somewhere in the vicinity of tonight late, midnight or after, and during the early morning hours of tomorrow. And actually, what happens in Puerto Rico is real important to us here in the continental United States. Anyway, she's supposed to possibly strengthen. At least the signs are indicating that she will strengthen as she heads toward Puerto Rico, and should be hurricane force by the time it gets there. Probably a Cat 1, at the absolute worst, a Cat 2. Now, how the path that it takes by the time it gets to Puerto Rico, and the reason it's important to us in the continental United States, is the Puerto Rican mountains, and then Dominican Republic has the two big peaks. Depending on how it goes, if it hits any of those mountains kind of directly, that can weaken the storm tremendously, and it could just completely then fizzle out and drop quickly back to a tropical storm and less. If that happens, she probably will turn immediately to the north and go up through the Bahamas and be nothing more than a rain and wind event, and not tremendously bad one at that. Now, on the bad side of it, if it's kind of splits those uprights, you've got Puerto Rico mountains here and you got the Dominican Republican mountains here. If it kind of goes right through the middle, then there's an excellent possibility that this sucker's just going to go right through the Bahamas then and hit Florida come probably the weekend. So it's real important on what happens through the day today and tomorrow, as how it could possibly affect the continental United States and clearly the Bahamas. Obviously, the best thing for all of us is if it hits one of the eye of this storm. And by the way, it is getting more defined as we go along. If it just goes right into one of those big mountains and then starts breaking it up, that would be awesome. Anyway, the folks down that way, St. Lucia's expecting for the worst. Is it, was supposed to hit in there during the night. Everybody, of course, is boarded up. These folks are pros at this. They're used to it. This is not, at least at this point, one of the terribly killer storms that we've seen over the past couple of years down there. But it's still, it's worth watching. It's worth tracking. It's worth making sure we know what's going to happen. Now, as far as the cruise industry is concerned, everybody has heard the reports on the changes on any number of the cruise ships and cruise lines. Everybody is tracking this thing and watching it. Royal Caribbean did some changes on a number of their itineraries. The Harmony of the Seas is now a 7-night cruise to the western instead of the eastern. The original itinerary had it going to St. Thomas, St. Martin, and Coco Key. St. Thomas and Puerto Rico, or San Juan, ports are closed today and tomorrow, just in case. St. Thomas, it's a possibility that it's going to have very little effect unless this thing veers a little bit to the north. And of course, San Juan is looking like it's more than likely going to affect Puerto Rico in some way. Again, folks, I don't want to be an alarmist. I don't think this is going to be as bad as it could be, but still, you need to watch, especially the folks in Puerto Rico that are are gun shy from after Maria and all that. I mean, they were just wiped out and still haven't recovered entirely from it. The Symphony of the Sea also has an altered itinerary. The ship will no longer visit St. Martin. We'll have 2 days at sea instead of one. Of course, they get out and sea and get away from the storms. Disney is altering the fantasy itinerary. Carnival has not made changes as of the last report I had yesterday afternoon, but I feel certain that they will be making some changes today as we see where this thing's going and what's going to happen. So everybody is watching this thing closely and making appropriate changes. If you're on a cruise or leaving on a cruise that's going anywhere in the Eastern Caribbean, perhaps even it's going through the Bahamas, you need to check with your cruise provider or the cruise line, and just be aware that things can change and do change when we're dealing with hurricanes. This obviously is something that the cruise lines have no way of planning, and they do their best to get through it. And hats off to what they've done in preparation for this and the plans that they've made and the changes that they've made. And folks, if it affects you negatively, just, I mean, I hate to say this, but bite the bullet. You don't want to be on a ship in a storm like that at sea, even if it's not a bad one. I've been at sea on a couple pretty brutal storms. I've also been at sea where we had to stay an extra 2 days at sea because of a hurricane. That was one going into New Orleans before Katrina, as a matter of fact. But anyway, it can happen. Make the best of it. Enjoy your cruise. I know that the cruise lines and the cruise ships are not going to put you in any danger. They're going to stay as far away from the problems as they can. And if they change your itinerary a little bit, just enjoy the cruise and go on with it. All right, a couple other things. By the way, I will be updating this throughout the day today and tomorrow, and Brat the cat's going to make a visit. I hear him starting to yowl over in the background, so he'll come in and say hello in all likelihood. Hong Kong situation just keeps getting worse and worse. The violence and the anti-government protest is becoming more serious, but the government claims it can handle it. Even though things escalated Sunday when police fired a water cannon and volleys of tear gas, and there were reports of some gunshots coming from police. There was no reports of anyone actually being shot. This has all been going on for what seems like forever. It's just, it's become a pain, really. It's been going on for a couple months now. The authorities have refused to meet the protesters' demands, which is withdrawal of an extradition bill, to set up an independent inquiry into the protest and perceived police brutality. They want the government to stop describing the protest as rioting. They want to waive charges against any of those arrested and resume political reform. The government has just said no to all of that. The weekend clashes that included the first gunshot and the arrest of 86 people, including the youngest at age 12. So the government has managed to arrest a 12-year-old. So rough situation still in Hong Kong. I'm not sure what they're going to do to get that over with. I'm really not. All right, two quick updates. The SkyRide feature on the Carnival Horizon and the Carnival Vista is to remain closed longer than expected due to the enhanced maintenance. And of course, Carnival tries to make the best light of this, but basically, it's going to be another month that the sky rides will be closed. Hopefully, at the end of that period, they'll get this sucker back open and get this thing behind them. Of course, they are trying to get it in condition to make it so it's safe for the passengers to use, and yada yada, the usual kind of rhetoric you expect. But still, the very popular feature is going to remain closed for what looks like another month. The other thing was Disney has announced that they're in the process of developing a second destination in the Bahamas called Lighthouse Point. Disney Cruises is an expanding operation. I've never been on a Disney cruise before. And I've been told recently that I need to go on one, just so I can see that, it's a great cruise for somebody other than necessarily somebody with kids, which is what I always thought. I needed younger kids to go on one. But anyway, so I've been told I should go on one. But Disney's in the process of developing another destination in the Bahamas. Construction will begin only after an environmental impact assessment and environmental management plan are reviewed and accepted by the government of the Bahamas. And public consultation has occurred. Construction could begin in 2020 with a completion date in late 2022 or 2023. So that's it, not anything that we're going to see in the very near future, but it is a possibility. So that about wraps us up. Okay, we got a couple people on. Jason, yeah, Jason 412. That poor cat sounds hungry. Rat the Cat's hungry all the time. In case you're new to these broadcasts, Rat the Cat makes an appearance every so often. Rat the Cat is 24 years old and he's deaf. He's lost his hearing. And so we pretty much let him just run the household. I mean, at his age, who cares? And he's a crotchety old man, just like I'm a crotchety old man. So the cat and I get along fine. He's crotchety, I'm crotchety. But he's just decided now if he's awake, it's time to eat. It doesn't matter when it is, and I'll let him get by with it. Yes, I could lock him out of my room and do all those things, but I don't. He comes in, wakes me up at ungodly hours, and I get up and give him some food, and I'll cuss at him and fuss at him, and I'll do it again tonight if he comes back again. But anyway, yeah, he does sound that yowling sounds like he's starving to death. Trust me, folks. The cat's not starving. It's not even close. He's just old and crotchety. But anyway, that about wraps us up for today. If you're new to this channel, as always, I appreciate it. You can always check in the description for links to stuff like, my Audible link if you buy books on Audible, which they got a nice special now for, I don't know, it's $4.95 for 3 months or something. You get on 5 books free or something crazy like that. There's a link in there to that, and we make a couple pennies. And you can do any shopping on Amazon. If you go through my link to get to the Amazon to do your shopping, then I make a couple pennies on that. So it's always nice to make a little extra money as we go along. And one of these days, I'll probably get around to doing something like T-shirts or something crazy, but I haven't done that yet. Anyway, we regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry. If you'd like to keep up with the latest in cruise ships, ports of call, cruises themselves, my interview shows, which are called Chillie Chats, and of course, cruise industry news, which appears Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning. To keep up with the latest and the happenings in the travel and cruise industry, just hit the little subscribe button. And as always, it's helpful to hit the bell notification thing so you'll be notified as soon as I go live or when I post a new video. And that happens with fairly much regularity. So, and as always, folks, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That either way, I don't care. Of course, I'd always prefer the thumbs up, but that lets YouTube know that you guys are out there and you are watching me. And so I'd always appreciate that. That's about it for today. I will be available and do some updates as they become available over the next 24 hours or so. And of course, we'll be back live again come Thursday. That wraps us up for travel and cruise industry news on this, the 27th day of August 2019. This is Chillie Falls with Chillie's Cruises. Later, y'all.